Hi everyone, my name's Sean, and this is another episode of Science with Sean. So I'm not actually sure if I'm going to post this or not, but just kind of wanted to process few things that I've been thinking and feeling here recently. I know I haven't made any videos in a while. Overall, life's been great, just really busy. Um, and I kind of just wanted to dive into a sense of belonging, a sense of acceptance. I know with April passing, you know, there's Autism Awareness Month, and that's uh, come and gone, but it really I kind of want to talk about it just because like this is a daily struggle a lot of times. Um, when you just feel, there are some days where you just feel so different. Like, even as I am pursuing my goals of becoming a professor or a researcher, even as I am pursuing, doing well in my master's program, getting ready to apply for PhD programs in neuroscience, um, even though I'm like still healthy, working out, like really happy most of the time. And then there are just like sometimes one of these days where I realize, you know, as I am growing um, and becoming the person I do want to become and things like that, I've felt that I am becoming ever more different from the people around me. And like that chasm just keeps getting wider and wider as I pursue what I want to pursue and other people pursue what they want to pursue. And it's just very different mindsets. And I think one of the ways in which it really feels where that chasm feels widest is in dating and relationships. It's in the social aspect, even just friendships, relationships with coworkers oftentimes can be a little bit more difficult. But um, I just realized that my mind operates so differently than most people, not in a way that like everyone's capable of, thinking differently and processing things in similar ways, but the degree that I really process things logically and how it's not normal for someone to operate logically in every facet of their life, essentially. Um, there are occasions where I don't operate logically for sure, but um, most of the time, the vast majority of any kind of decision that I make, and my normal default setting, I'd say, is to think through things logically, pragmatically, going with what science has to say and where the evidence I think points to. Um, and I am super like proud of how far I've come within the past year or two. Life has been so good, and I'm starting to see the benefits of all the years of hard work that I've put into studying and reading and fitness and uh, social aspects as well. But and I've seen progress academically. I've seen progress physically in terms of being healthy, lifting and running and playing sports and trying new things, and developed in terms of taking on new challenges, things that I did that I didn't think I could do. um, finding a couple different niches where I can find work and be an asset. But I still think there's so much difficulty in like I haven't made any progress like socially, if I'm being honest. Um, it's more common, I think, to when you're doing when you're at work and you're making important decisions. I think that there's perhaps a greater tendency to try to think to problem solve, where logic and reasoning is valued for sure. Um, but then outside of work, it's like everything changes. Like how people make decisions are not the same when it comes to financial business decisions. Logic is up here. And then when it comes to social relationships, um, habits outside of work, or um, I don't know, just anything outside of work, it's like logic comes all the way down over here. Um, and that's where I think a lot of the disconnect is, why I haven't made perhaps much progress with people, um, either in friendships with other, guys, or having relationships with women, you know, that hasn't really, there hasn't been much progress. And without getting too much into like the specifics of everything, um, I don't know what the solution is without me having to like compromise, or the someone else having to compromise. And that's not something I want to do. I don't want to compromise who I am, or um, who I aspire to be, because I think the way that my brain does work can help lots of people. When I want to go into neuroscience and like study autism in depth, study human behavior in the context of neuroendocrinology, hormones, anxiety, neuroplasticity, just general uh, neuroscience, and so forth. Things like that, I know that I can make, my goal is to make a significant contribution to that scientific field of neuroscience. But I find that it hurts me so much, outside of work. Um, like I have wanted to go to the bar, um, just as like a social thing, but then I'm like, what am I going to talk to people about? Because most of my time I spend thinking about molecular neuroscience. I spend most of my time thinking about dopamine. I spend most of my time thinking about um, the neuroanatomy in other animals. Like, I mean, some people are fascinated. A lot of people are fascinated by animals, and working at the zoo and stuff would help. But um, there's just, when I tell people I want to like study autism, or if I say like, oh, what, like if people ask me, oh, why do you want to study neuroscience? Why do you want to apply to these neuroscience PhD programs? Um, and it's hard for me to honestly answer the question without bringing up that I'm on the spectrum myself, that I was diagnosed Asperger's as a kid. So, and then, you never know how people are going to respond or react and things like that. But and then there's just other things in my life at home that I just can't imagine many women being willing to tolerate. um, I eat almost like the same, like 5 to 10 different foods every single day, um, depending on what I prefer. I read the nutrition labels on everything. I know exactly how many grams of protein, how many grams of carbs and fat go into each meal. Um, and I don't want to go out to restaurants because they don't, at least not typically, not on a consistent basis, you know, because I don't know the nutrition facts on for the whatever pasta dish or steak or pork chop that they have. And so I think that's like hard for people to like wrap their mind around, like how like rigid I am with my nutrition. And then I think another thing that would be difficult for other people to like kind of process, and how they would see that I am, you know, very different than most people is, what was I going to say? Just my need for rest. It can be, you know, how draining things are socially for me, is, I think, would be very challenging for especially more extroverted people who want to be, you know, at social events all the time, or when there's drinking involved. Like I just don't. I'm just not a big drinker, and I don't. I feel that it impacts my motivation. It messes with my executive function. It makes managing emotions even tougher for me. If you're struggling with anxiety or depression or whatever, um, it only makes that worse. It makes the highs really high, but then if something happens, then the lows can get pretty low pretty quickly. And if you don't have that prefrontal cortex operating at an optimal level that you normally would be able to say no to certain things, or like question, hey, is this a good decision? Um, then you become much more risk seeking rather than risk averse. And so that's just not a good combination. Plus, you throw in like ADHD and all that, and like people with ADHD are 2 to 3 times more likely to become addicted to any kind of substance. So there's just not, I just don't find it to be helpful for me, in hardly any conceivable way. And so, other than just like the social aspect, I think there's value to, you know, being around other people, striking up conversations, and just being able to, you know, have fun for a little bit, just being able to let loose a little bit. So that's definitely, there are definitely positive aspects socially, but from a biochemical and neurophysiological standpoint, it's just not helpful for me, especially so, um, with being on the spectrum and ADHD, and um, so yeah, yeah. But I'm trying to find kind of like the silver lining or the solution, and you know, it would mean the world to me if, you know, there are other people out there just feeling a similar way, and that they feel like they are so different, that their passions, their special interests are either way too far more intense than neurotypical people who develop normally, who have a typical brain physiology and everything, um, who are not on the spectrum. Uh, People who find that their special interest is far more intense than other people, that the content of their special interest is different than other people, or both, or a combination of the two. And I just hope that this video can be of some consolation, of some, you know, feeling of connection, that there are other people out there who are struggling still on the spectrum, who still may be doing really well. Like I'm doing really well overall. It's just, it kind of sometimes hits me how different I am from most people. And so I hope this video is beneficial for someone, and that perhaps, the world feels a little bit smaller, that it's just knowing that you're not alone when you're going through difficult times where you feel like you just don't belong, where you feel like you aren't getting the acceptance that, not necessarily that I want. I don't really depend. I don't think I depend on other people's opinions of me nearly as much as what I used to. But I think it's still a genuine, good, natural human desire to want acceptance, to want connection with other people. And when you consistently do not find that acceptance, or feel like other people want to spend time with you, when people don't want to spend time with you, when people don't text you, when people text you and then they don't show up, or they show up super late, and that's hard. Um, that can't just not affect you. Um, Even when it does happen, and you do have the coping skills to kind of process that and bounce back from something like that, it still takes time. It still takes work to be able to deal with that in a healthy way. So um, I hope this is helpful. I hope that other people realize that, you're not alone. If you're on the spectrum, or just not even on the spectrum necessarily, even if you just feel different than most people, people don't accept you, or aren't very inclusive. I hope this kind of brings some kind of comfort, that, um, but I'm gonna keep fighting. Um, I think I have too much to contribute to science and to the betterment of humanity and to animals, uh, to just not keep going, to just, get lazy and complain, and not um, be determined to find a way no matter what. So, um, yeah, I still have a lot of things I want to do, want to contribute. Sometimes it just really wears on you when the only people who feel like are in your corner are your parents. And so um, I know that there are other people who do care about me, who do find who do enjoy being around me and spending time with me. It's just sometimes it wears on you, but you keep going, you keep fighting, and you keep the long term perspective in mind, and knowing that it only takes one person to connect with really well, and it only takes a couple friends uh, to really make a huge difference in someone's life. And if you can be that friend for someone, I mean that for someone who's on the spectrum, if you're neurotypical, there's just so much beyond the surface. It's like the iceberg analogy, where you kind of see what it's like. You see a person, what they're like. Part of that iceberg is visible, but it's only like 10%. And I think for people on the spectrum, there's so much more that goes beyond what meets the eye, and that there are some really cool ideas that they have going on in their head, and hopes and aspirations that they have. And you know it would mean the world, I think, to someone who's on the spectrum, to have one person be a consistent positive social influence, who just checks in on them every now and then, who's willing to pick up the phone when you're having a hard day, or um, who offers kind of some social support, and like helping them navigate tricky social situations where we may not know what to say or do, um, in those situations. But you know that would be super helpful, to, I think, a lot of people who are on the spectrum. Uh, Anyways, before this goes on much longer, um, I'm going to wrap things up here, and I appreciate you listening. And hopefully, I didn't come across too much as of a downer. I think everyone should be allowed to have, be like have a tough day, or overall today's been great, and then all of a sudden it just kind of hit me that, um, yeah, yeah, that I'm really different, and uh, I just needed to kind of vent for a bit. And if that was, I hope that was beneficial for people on the spectrum, or people who may know others on the spectrum. It's like, um, yeah, just take one step. Um, just say hi, strike up a conversation with someone on the spectrum. But yeah, uh, thank you. I hope you hope that was enjoyable somewhat, and have a good night.